spend years paying for university when you can earn money right now?
While they are working nowadays under the gig economy, but at the same time, they have to prepare themselves for the future, which is very uncertain.
With more school leavers turning to entrepreneurship, e-commerce, freelancing and gig work, is tertiary education still worth it? We challenge that thinking on Decimal Point. Between 2020 and 2023, around 500,000 SPM graduates did not continue their studies. Yet today, university education is no longer just for a select few. With 20 public universities and a growing number of private institutions and a greater focus on TVET, technical and vocational education and training, tertiary education is becoming more accessible and flexible. We speak to two professors on how higher education is evolving and how it continues to open doors in a competitive world. This is the University Advantage. OUM is going to expand four branches in Sarawak and soon 6 in Sabah. But before we go on further into that, Dato', maybe you could take us back to the beginning. I mean, what were the key gaps in Malaysia's tertiary education that led to the vice-chancellors of 11 public universities, which also led to the establishment of Meteor?
Thank you very much. This is very interesting. Let's go back to the early days, when OUM was about to be established. There were a lot of demands or needs especially among the working adults, where they wanted to pursue their studies while they were working, And at that time, I think a lot of universities, even public universities, were also offering this distance learning, or they call it PJJ. And government at that time decided that there should be one particular university focusing or offering this PJJ program, Open and Distance Learning Program. So what they decided, the cabinet decided that these 11 major public universities in Malaysia form a consortium to set up a company called Multimedia Technology Enhancement Operation, or in short form is Meteor. And this Meteor set up few subsidiaries, and one of them is Open University Malaysia. And this Open University Malaysia was tasked to offer open and distance learning program on behalf of other public universities, so that the public university would focus on, to become the research university offering degree, bachelor's, master's and PhD. So that is basically the gap, because a lot of demands from, especially among the working adults, to pursue their study while they are working.
I see. When you talk about, I think the long distance learning is very vital, especially since the COVID-19 pandemic has occurred in 2020. Could you say, being in this era of development, what kind of significant changes do you see as well, Dato'?
During the early days also, we call it correspondence, study by correspondence, And over the years, the development of technology, internet and so forth, there are opportunities for the universities also, or education provider, to develop learning technology, use this technology to provide learning support for the students. And of course, there is no longer sending learning materials to our students, but they can get access into learning through this digital and internet, which we provide through our technology.
So go back to the topic, Dato'. The term democratizing higher education, what does this actually mean? And how is Meteor's role as a consortium of public universities help democratize higher education in Malaysia?
Well, in simple words, democratizing means giving opportunity, access into education to as many people as possible across the age group, where they are, and also who they are, And this is about the opportunity for everyone to study. Before this, in the conventional university, we limit certain age and certain entry qualification for them to enter the university, to further their studies in the university. But under this democratization of education, people basically have the opportunity to come and join or to pursue their studies in the area that they are interested in, regardless of their age or even education background. Because, for example, even now, the government has agreed or approved what they call it accreditation for prior experiential learning. Yes. That means we take into account the working experience that they have or related working experience they have, even though they don't have the basic requirement in academic, For example, in SPM or STPM, but they have a certain number of years of working experience in the related field, and they can come and join or enroll in the program.
I know technology is also central to Meteor's approach. So how are you using technology in learning? Could you walk us more into that?
In the context of OUM, we leverage on this technology to develop or to provide a learning support system, learning management system for our students. Because for online learning, we must have a very strong and good support system. Because our students are everywhere, they don't come to the campus for their studies, but they need a good support system in order for them to be able to pursue their studies. So, for example, we provide digital learning materials which they can access through internet, and also learning management system, or we call it My Inspire for OUM, for Open University Malaysia, My Inspire, which provide platform for them to communicate through forum, and they can submit their requests or suggestion or inquiries or whatever through online. That means they don't need to come to the office for any processes or anything pertaining, not just regarding the academic matters, but also in other matters. And over the years, I think we have developed a very strong or wonderful support system for our students. And that's why you can see now our students are very happy, basically, because we provide a flexibility for them in their studies. It doesn't matter where they are, any time that they like to come and join to study, there's no obligation. I'm very impressed with the vision of the able leadership of Premier of Sarawak. I heard that they have about 600 million for the education. OUM can play our role in providing opportunities, especially for the working adults.
In today's world, technology is reshaping work, school, and daily life. When teenagers can use technology platforms to take on gig jobs rather than pursue their education, how do parents respond? And how can we prepare for this fast-changing economy? OUM is creating new boundaries for working forces as well, especially in lifelong learning. Now, the issue that usually comes between this is the qualification versus certification. How is OUM bridging this gap?
Well, there are basically two channels for the potential students to join OUM. Yeah? Number one is normal channel, which we follow strictly MQA standard in terms of entry qualification. That means, like other universities also, for the students to pursue their studies in diploma program, they must have at least minimum 3 credits in SPM and whatever requirements set by Malaysian Qualification Agency. Even for bachelor degree, they must have STPM or equivalent and so forth. Second channel is the APEL, as I mentioned earlier. They don't have to have a basic education qualification, but they still have opportunity to come and join in whatever program that they like, provided they have sufficient working experience, and also they pass certain processes that is set also by the MQA.
I see. And also in today's fast-changing economy, Dato, how critical do you see is lifelong learning, and how is OUM using its advantages also to promote this to the workforce?
Well, in this ever-changing and dynamic world, everybody needs to be upskilled and learn new things. You know, there are demands everywhere, even in the workforce also. People need to upgrade their knowledge and skill and so forth. This comes lifelong learning philosophy, you know. I mean, our students coming from all walks of life, from a very young clerk, you know, up to very senior director or even CEO of a company. They come from a very young after school, post-secondary school, you know, up to a very senior citizen. So basically, for those who are already at the retirement age, you know, they don't really need the certificate for career ladder, but it is more on self-satisfaction, you know, and to show example to the children and other people. And yes, I agree with you that nowadays, we encourage people who are in the workforce, especially for the young people, you know, who after school, they don't want to pursue their studies in the full-time universities, but they choose to work, well, because of certain reason, such as, for their livelihood and so forth. While they are working nowadays as under the gigs economy, you know, but at the same time, they have to prepare themselves for the future, which is very uncertain.
Correct. And in navigating all these uncertainties, especially with trends and challenges, how does OUM ensure that you often keep up with the pace of the era? Also?
Well, number one, the program that we offer relevant to the industry, so that when they graduate or they complete their study, they can go into the workforce in the industry which is related to the program that they study. And other thing is, I think we provide the support for them, basically, to make sure they come and they remain in our system until they complete their study, rather than come for 1 or 2 semesters, you know, then disappear. So we provide the hand-holding for them to make sure they will stay on until they complete their studies. Well, we are working with industry, professional bodies, to ensure that our programs are well recognized by the professional bodies especially. And we also work closely with other open universities in the ASEAN region, and to make sure that our programs are relevant and recognized.
Any final messages or missions or vision moving forward?
Well, I'm very impressed with the vision of the able leadership of Right Honourable Premier of Sarawak. I heard that they have about 600 over million, you know, for the education for the children of Sarawak or people of Sarawak. And OUM can play our role in providing opportunities, especially for the working adults, working people in Sarawak. Hopefully, through this opportunity, we can develop people in Sarawak to upgrade uplift their education level and also qualification to become knowledgeable workers, you know.
Well, once more, congratulations on being up on the top 10 economies in ASEAN as well. So that's why it's linked to the first question that we want to ask. What is your seeming to be this year might be a very busy year for both the federal and state budgets. Now, an economist and also someone who has a very big responsibility in the Faculty of Business and Economics in UNIMAS, what is your day-to-day routine?
I'm just a normal academician. Of course, part of our job is actually to train, or I don't use the word teach, but to train the future generation of what we have for the future. That's what we are doing in the universities, especially in terms of education. So that's one of my main chunk. Other than that, because I hold an administrative post, then I have to do some administrative job. Other than that, I'm a researcher, meaning that I also involved in some research and development, and also we have to write, we have to publish, and we have to contribute also to the society, meaning that in terms of community engagement and other related materials on the capacity of the university itself.
I see. And so, Prof, maybe you could share what are your latest and recent research so far?
I'm an economist by training, but of course throughout the year I'm involved in some of the projects and which is very much linked towards what I love to do. So what I did for previously and of course until now, I'm very much into research related to fiscal policy, where I look into how government behave, how government spend money, where they spend the money, and how to generate revenue. So that's part of my interest inside the research, and still until today I get involved in that and publish such a thing along the way to see if it's deficit, what will happen? Will it be sustainable? Will the revenue stream that we have will be sustainable and whatnot? That's something related to what I did basically. Yeah. STEM education have been put emphasized by the government, but not to forget that the others equally important, because we want to build the character of this younger generation, the future generation, to becoming the next Prime Minister, for example.
After SPM, the easiest way to earn money is through part-time or gig work. But what if the university experience could land you higher paying, next-level jobs, prestige, and access to valuable networks? As we know, Sarawak is moving towards a free tertiary education by 2026. And I think this is one, education, as we mentioned and we chatted earlier, is one of the biggest benefiter in the budget. So when we translate it in the education sector with what you have mentioned, Prof, what is your take on that?
If you talk about Sarawak, when we talk about free education, of course this is a very good news. This provides a very good not just feeling, but psychologically this bring a lot of positive impact, not just for the businesses, not just for the economy itself, but it's also good in terms of having this, it's so-called we give back to the society, where the government would have amount of money that putting up on education, meaning that the focus is on education, the focus is on providing or train the human capital that needed for the future. That's what the direction, the vision of Sarawak itself. And despite that, this might be the first step, but there are more towards that vision itself, right? This is the first step towards 2026 of free education. And that, I would see that it will enlarge further and it will go into the direction where perhaps the whole education system might be free, where education, as what some would say, the education is a right of the society, of the people, of the rakyat itself. So it's not what we should pay or becoming a business itself, because education in some, as we might know, education have become a very big business and it's benefited not the whole society, but what we are looking at now is the other way around. It benefited the society without incurring any extra costs or perhaps just a minimal cost for that.
Currently, federal budgets fund mainstream universities and schools alike, while the Sarawak state budget adds perhaps supplementary scholarships to the TVET sector. What can you comment on that?
We can see that at both sides of the coin is going into the positive direction, on the right track in terms of we acknowledge the importance of building up the future generation which are educated, and not just educated but to be responsible in that sense, to build that kind of, to build the future generation not just with the knowledge but also with the moral essence value that is inside there, right? That's, I guess, from my perspective, both of that go hand in hand. We have the Tibet on one side, we have the normal route of the university that go hand in hand, which supposedly that will benefit the whole society. So both of them can be co-created at the same time. It is not a competition between both. The kids or the youth are more inclined towards the direction of TVET, then you go this direction. If you're more inclined towards the other side, then you go this direction. But both will bring a positive impact, not just to the economy and businesses, but of course to their own family itself.
I see. And also, now, I mean, recently we've just known also there's a new from streaming as well. Now we have STEM, then we have STEAM, and now we have STREAM, which is science, technology, religion, arts and mathematics. So what is the new framework, in your opinion, as an educator? Will this work in the next 5 to 10 years for younger generations?
I guess STREAM itself will be very much related to stream, swimming in the stream. But beyond that word of stream itself, as we can see, the world now are getting very much complex in that sense that education, again, as I mentioned just now, is not by choice. It's what all the society quarters in the country should have, and create such an acronym to fit in everyone into that circle. Meaning that we do not want to leave anyone behind. It's not just the STEAM and the STEM at first, and now we extended into STEAM and STREAM. Perhaps in the near future, there are more stream of studies that are fitting into that direction.
How do you see with all these sectors, being put fully focused, can contribute back to the nation, Prof?
Right, I'm looking into this direction where we want to produce a future generation which is not just holistically efficient or holistically sustainable in that sense, and not just the product, but the product itself in the university or in any education sectors will be on the students itself. What do we want to produce? What we are looking into that particular direction. So that's where the importance of other than the STEM education is important too. Of course, STEM education have been emphasized by the government, but not to forget that the others equally important, because we want to build the character of this younger generation, the future generation, to becoming the next prime minister, for example. To become the next leader, you need the kind of leadership skills inside their capability of critical thinking and whatnot.
Prof, as a researcher as well, and someone who has been looking through all this critically, we know that infrastructure budgets by the federal might build a school, but state budgets also pay for its connectivity, its maintenance, and on the ground, coming from the background of education yourself. I mean, is there a critical funding gap for the education sector? What is your opinion?
This, for me, this is something that need to be continued on, meaning that education from years to go, even in the near future or the further future, we still need the kind of funding inside there. Because as I said just now, as I always believe in, education is not an option, but it's something that the society should have. And with that, the government should provide as what they do now, and in the future, a certain amount of money, a certain percentage of money towards that particular, investment towards that. Because you can see that from there, we're not just producing the human capital, but a specialized talent for the future. That's the investment that you're going to see with whatever investment, putting up money, whether it's on Sarawak side or on the federal side or any other states, perhaps in general in Malaysia.
University isn't just a classroom, it's a launchpad. Through research and experimentation, students develop those skills and ways of thinking, not just to stay ahead in a fast-changing world, but to change the world. For anyone who thinks otherwise, think again on Decimal Point.